Richard, great win from World Tag for first outing here on 1990 with a bad draw. How do you rate this horse after this performance?
Yeah, I mean, going into the race, we were, I thought, in the last sort of 3 weeks, I remember sat on him when I first got here 5 weeks ago and thought he was a nice horse, but he was a little undercooked. And, we just felt he might need his first run. But in the last few weeks, he's really turned a corner. And, I thought going into the weekend before the draws came out there, he was probably my best ride, the way he was working at home. And then obviously the draws come out and 11 over 990 is not very good at all. I mean, drawn 11 of 11 in any distance is tough, but over that sort of distance, it's very difficult. But like I say, we were always confident that we just had to give him a draw and ride him patiently from that stall, and hopefully his class would bring him through, and it did in the end. I think he's a nice horse going forward. Certainly, I think he hasn't had a hard race. It was, I didn't pick the stick up. Obviously, I dropped it, but it was hands and heels. So you'd like to hope that he'll improve from it. And the way Vincent trains his horses, there should be plenty more to come from him. And I think he's a horse with a bright future.
And the way he won, do you feel he can go beyond this distance?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not his distance anyway. I mean, it was obviously a perfect start and distance for him. His first run and his first start here on the track. But I think going forward, he's a 1400, possibly 1600. There's plenty of options for him. From 1365, 14, even up to 1600. I think he's a horse that can go those distances, and I think he'll be very versatile. And like I say, I'd expect him to improve. As the season goes on, and I think going into next year, he'll be a horse with a bright future.
And a great run from First Crusade. In your point of view, what cost him his race?
Yeah, it was a little unfortunate. I mean, obviously the draw didn't help. Like I say, he was drawn on the outside. I felt I got a good enough position early on. We went a nice pace, and I was able to slot in fifth on the rail, and I was quite happy where I was. Listen, it was obviously we got a slight interference from the winner, but at the same time, looking at the video afterwards, I shifted in as well. It was a bit of both, both horses. The winner could be quite nice. It was his first start as well, but it's obviously frustrating, and you're always trying to find a reason why he got beat when it's such a small margin. But listen, I'm pretty sure he can bounce back from that, and he'll be in the winners' enclosure before too long. But just circumstances. I think obviously the barrier wasn't great to start with, and the winner was drawn one, and he was out and gone, and we had some ground to make up. But the horse ran a very good race. He picked up very well, and unfortunately it was. The winning post came a little bit too soon. I could have done with the punters moving the winning post another 10 yards past the line, and we'd have won.
And what explains the bad run of Promissory?
His horse is coming back from a bit of a layoff, so we felt he would need the run. Even if you look at him in the morning, his coat is still a bit dull, and there's a few of Vincent's horses that are looking that way at the moment, and I think they kind of need him 1 or 2 runs, to put them spot on, as you've seen, like the likes of Elusive Path and these types of horses, that are starting to need at least 2 runs, I think, to see them come to their prime. And I think that's basically the way Vincent's training them. He's leaving plenty to work with. It's a long season, and there's no point having them 100% fit at the beginning of the season, because they're not going to finish the rest of the season off, and Vincent's probably got one of the smallest strings here, so the important thing is we place them right. And listen, like I say, I was pleased with his run. He was another one that had a bad draw, and he finished his race off quite well. But he's a horse that, like I say, he was coming back from a bit of a break, and I'm sure that probably need one more run after this, and he's another one that will be spot on in a few weeks' time.
And let's talk about Elusive Path. Last time a good draw, the first one, but he finished more than 4 lengths behind the great one, despite a very good draw. Can you tell us what really happened with him?
I can't, and we're still trying to answer that question. We were questioning that afterwards, because he's a horse that going into that race, obviously he'd had a run and he'd won, and he was looking fantastic. He looked probably as good as any horse in the stable. He really looked well, and we kind of came away scratching our head. His bloods were good and everything like that. We couldn't quite work out what happened, but hopefully it's just one of those things that horses can't talk, so they can get up in the morning and feel like us. Some days we get up and we don't want to go to work, and we just hope it's one of those things that he didn't perform on the day for whatever reason, but yeah, I think still that he has a bright future, and hopefully he can bounce back from that. But like I say, we're still up in the air as to what happened, because like I say, it wasn't the fact that he didn't look very well, because he looked fantastic and he'd been training well. It was just for some reason he got up that day and it wasn't his time. So we'll go back to the drawing board. But like I say, I think he's a horse that will be gracing the winners' enclosure again very shortly.
And cool at heart, good third behind Saint-Tropez on 1450. Do you think he needs more ground for a horse who won twice on 1600?
Yeah, I think he does, and the thing is the program is quite tight, so you've got to get them into races where that come for them, and he's another horse that we felt going into that race would possibly need to run his work. He seemed to be blowing quite hard after his gallops, and we felt that he probably hadn't hit peak form. He was probably only sort of 80% going into that race, and like I say, the way the horse had been running, it had been quite frustrating. So we kind of rode him a little bit different, trying to get him to run well, because we knew he would improve for the run. Like I say, they basically all needing 1 or 2 runs before they reach their peak. I was very pleased with his run. I felt he finished off the race well enough without threatening the first and the second, but it was encouraging, and he had a real nice blow, sort of 50 yards out. He really filled his lungs up, and that would have put him spot on. And like I say, he seems to come out of it. I sat on him this morning, and he seems in great order. So looking forward to him going forward, and like you say, stepping up in distance. I think will bring him to his own, and he could be a horse that possibly might want some headgear as well. So they're things that we're still trying to work out. But I think he's a horse that certainly I would be very shocked if he wasn't winning before the season's out.
And let's talk about Kudutu, who was never factor behind why wouldn't you on 1450. Any reason behind that poor performance from him?
Yep. It was my first time on the horse, so I didn't really know him too well. I personally, I think we got our tactics wrong. I spoke to Vincent afterwards, and we both agreed that we were probably, were a little bit too aggressive. We had a very good draw, and it's very hard to give that stall up here. My personal opinion was we were a bit too aggressive on the horse, and that possibly cost him, as the race went on. I think he's a horse that, getting to know him now, I said to Vincent, next time I'd like to ride him a little bit more patient. Let him just fill himself up and get into a good rhythm, maybe sit sort of middle of the pack, 5th, 6th, and, wherever he lands, but without, forcing him. But it is very tough when you have such a good stall, because you don't want to give that away. So, but I think certainly, in my personal opinion, when I came back, I was pretty frustrated. I think, we got our tactics wrong, but it wasn't, we were both on the same page that they were the way we were going to adapt the race, try to take the sting out of some of the horses, because obviously he'd had a run, and he was, we felt he was slightly better off with horses at the weight. So, we took our chance, and it didn't work. And this game is a great leveler. If you don't make mistakes, you don't learn, and that's the beauty of this racing. You have to make a mistake before you get things right. If you get things right early on, you're never going to learn. So I've been in this game a long time. So I'm still learning, and that's the beauty of it. So we live and learn. We all make mistakes. That's human error. And I'm pretty sure that we'll get it right eventually. So, but the main thing is, we were both on the same page, and that's the main thing. That's the great thing about working with Vincent. We've built up in a short time a good relationship. We seem to be both ideas are very, very similar. So I like the way he brings his horses on gradually, and hopefully, he's a horse that's come out of that race well as well. I thought. I was slightly concerned, because he did have probably a harder race than he should have done. Like I say, I was aggressive on him, but after riding him this morning, in a piece of work, he seems to be in great order. So I'm looking forward to riding him slightly different next time, and hopefully we can get another winner.
And how do you rate the track work and form of 8 Cities?
Yeah, he's a little frustrating. He's a horse that's very, very busy in the morning. If you want him to trot, he'll canter. If you want him to canter, he's always one step ahead of you. So And he's a very lightly framed horse. He's quite hard to keep a lid on. As you know, he's quite aggressive in that he wants to always do a step further than you want him to do. So the important thing with him is because he's quite a light framed horse and he's always busy. He's like a kid that's hyperactive. You've got to keep them calm, all the time. So I think with him, it's more important to kind of keep him calm, keep him relaxed, keep a lid on him. He's fit and well because he's had the races. But like I say, hopefully we can get him to on the track and show what we think his capabilities are. I mean, I don't think he's a superstar, but I certainly think he's capable of winning races, at his level.
And any horse works well, and you will advise our viewers to follow next time?
I think obviously Cool at Heart come out of his race very well, and I think he showed enough on that last race that is very encouraging. And I quite like the way Tudaku went this morning as well. He's come out of that race well. So looking forward to it. And I think Wooltag is a horse for the future as well. So, there's a few there. Elusive Path, hopefully we can get his head in front next time. So there's a few. There's probably, 4 or 5 horses in the stable that hopefully can win. And I can keep the punters happy and to stop telling me to go home because I'm quite enjoying myself at the moment.